This is part 8 in the video series, handling your car accident case without a lawyer, without going to court. And in this section, we're going to be talking about negotiating with the insurance adjuster. Overview, we're going to be talking about some general tips and understanding the context of the adjuster and what they're doing. The benefits of using phone call versus written communication. Finding out the basis for their offers, making counter offers. This is, I'm giving you a disclaimer here that I'm not giving legal advice. It's a general guide. By watching this video, it doesn't make you a client. I'm talking about California law, and it changes from state to state, so you should know that. And I'm talking about 2020 law, and it changes every year, so you should be aware of that also. Who am I? I'm Jonathan Howell. I'm an attorney in Los Angeles, handle cases all throughout California, and have a lot of experience negotiating with insurance adjusters. You should understand that when you're talking to an insurance adjuster, they are an employee or an agent of the insurance company. And a lot of times what I've seen now, especially, is a lot of these insurance adjusters are given very short leashes, very limited authority to negotiate, sometimes just a couple grand. And they have to go to their supervisors in order to get more authority. And there's really not much they can do. And they really are limited in the sort of negotiation they can do. And the negotiation that they do is double checked so that they're not making moves that are too large or anything like that. So you should understand that going in. They're basically a lot of times monitored to the point where there's not much discretion that's given to them. So there's really no point to yell at them or to get angry. You want to sort of look at it like if you can get past them or give them the ammo they need in order to get the case resolved. Typically, insurance adjusters, they gather the information and they're the point of contact, but then they have to go back to their supervisors and their middle managers and get more authority in order to settle your case. They will also lie to you, so just be prepared and don't get upset about it. They will lie that this is the best offer they can make. I've heard them say that to me, and it was completely false. I've heard they'll repeat arguments that are known scientifically to be incorrect. They will overemphasize things that benefit them, like pre-existing conditions. They will oftentimes hint at numbers to see if they'll get it resolved, but they don't actually have authority, and then use that against you. So, for example, if they're offering 10,000, you're at 20,000, they may hint at splitting the difference, getting to 15. And then if you indicate that's a possibility, then they start negotiating off that. It's happened where I've seen that. It's not really, it's not good faith negotiation at all. They will float numbers out to you that they don't have. And then when you say that can do it, they'll turn around and say they couldn't get authority and then negotiate off that. So do not trust them under any circumstance. Be prepared for most adjusters to make lots of small incremental moves. Do not try to shortcut it because that's not how they operate. And just understand this and don't get upset about it. There's lots of different ways you can communicate with an insurance adjuster. You can do it by the phone. You can do it by email, letters, even certified mail. A lot of the communication that I do is by email because I prefer to have things written down and have a sort of summary of what's happened since then. So there's no miscommunication. I also don't really like the way that some insurance adjusters negotiate because I feel like they're doing it in bad faith, and it's harder for them to do that over email and just have everything written. If you call them up, they will ask you questions to sort of probe you, like, What is the best you can do in this case? What's the lowest offer you're willing to take? They'll ask kind of, I would call sharp negotiation tactics. And if you're not accustomed to that, they will use that against you. That's why putting things in writing, and also, you don't necessarily need to use letters or certified mail. Occasionally, you're required to for certain things like a demand for arbitration, which is if you're getting to that point, maybe you should be hiring a lawyer. Letters are okay, but it's not as great as a way to keep track of communication. Email is just so much easier to track the communication, and letters you have to print and put a stamp on. Other things that insurance adjusters will do on the phone is try to, especially if it's your case and you're the one who's handling it, they'll try to do discovery on you and kind of use it as an opportunity to get a free state, learn about you and your case. So that's why I don't recommend that, especially if you're trying to do it yourself, because they're going to use it against you. On the other hand, what's good for you in using the phone is to learn about their perspective of the case and just ask them, what is the basis for this offer? Write it down. Don't argue with them. Write it down and then respond later in writing after you've had a chance to think about it and go point by point and explain why they're wrong. And I find that to be an effective way because then they can go back and deal with that with their supervisors. And when you're getting the basis for their offers, don't get upset. Just ask for the basis. They're going to say things that are going to upset you. That's part of what they do. And just listen and then respond later in writing. That's what I found a good technique to negotiate with them. When you're making counter offers, so usually they make very low ball offers and then you're making your initial offer. Remember ahead of time, the notes that you have regarding negotiation and your insurance limits. One thing that I like doing is having a settlement range ahead of time, so I kind of know where I want to come in, starting with a higher number, obviously, and then thinking, okay, where am I going to stop? Remember that you're dealing with someone who has limited authority, so you just need to keep punching at it, and hopefully they can go back to their supervisor and get more authority. Understand that the context in which you're negotiating with the person also, so the limits of insurance, for example. I mentioned here again the having ranges and bottom lines, understanding what's the lowest you're willing to go before you'll file a lawsuit or hire a lawyer. Common things that adjusters say, we talked about a little bit, but what is your bottom line? How much do you want? And what they're trying to do is get you to bid against yourself or give some number to make a big jump. You don't want to bid against yourself. What that means is when they ask you, when you make a demand and say, oh, that's too high, can you make another demand? They're just asking you to bid against yourself. If they ask you to split the difference, that's sort of a dangerous move if they don't actually have authority, and you really have to be careful when negotiating with people like that. We talked about that. So that's some tips on negotiating with the insurance adjuster. It is a dance where you go back and forth, and lately I've noticed, especially with the major insurance carriers, when you're dealing with their in-house insurance adjusters on smaller cases, they make these really small incremental moves, and you have to respond in kind, making these small incremental moves. You can't really make big moves with them because they won't respond that way. They'll just respond with their small incremental moves, and just be prepared to do that. If you have any questions, visit my website, howelljustice.com, and there's more resources available to you there too.